Good morning, good afternoon, depending on what time zone you're in this lovely Wednesday. Um, Thank you for joining us today. We are excited to share information that's going to be very, very resourceful. We're excited to hear from you. I'm obviously also just excited to be here and share some time with Mike Gatley. Gotten to know him so well over the past couple of years in my role at Honest Game, and I know he has a lot of wisdom to share, and we want to make sure that you get the most out of your time today. So we plan to be here for a little bit under or less than about a half hour or more for questions and answers at the end as well. So just want to make sure that that fits into your time frame today, as I know that as a former athletic administrator, days go by so fast, we need the time. So we will get started. My name is Courtney Sakalaris. I'm one of our senior managers here at Honest Game. I had an opportunity to serve at a very large high school outside of Chicago for a little over 14 years and 17 years total in the high school space. Also very grateful for a long time, way back in the day, opportunity to be a Division I athlete, and obviously came to Honest Game understanding the resources that we need for our student athletes as it relates to academic eligibility and now the ever-changing landscape of college athletics. I'm going to let Mike share a little bit about himself, and then we'll get started.
Yes. Hi, everyone. And again, whether it's morning or afternoon, according to where you are, Mike Gatley, 23 plus years as an AD, 14 coaching college basketball. Just really, really excited to be able to, continue to give information. I always say information is powerful. And we in the world of athletics have a huge responsibility, and that's to the student athletes, that we are involved in. So that's what today's webinar is about, just to give you some important information, maybe some new information, and hopefully leave here more informed than when we started.
Thank you, Mike. And I think it's also really important for us as either former ADs, current sitting ADs, and thinking about how we serve our student athletes. Mike obviously has that trusted reputation and compliance with his background, but also is still helping us sort of serve as leaders and find ways to develop. So again, today goals are just to sort of share some updated information and what's happening right now in college athletics as it relates to the House settlement, as it relates to roster spots. Then we're going to share some conversation with Mike about some things that he thinks are important in this next sort of time frame for ADs and what you need to be focused on. And then we'll share a little bit more about Honest Game and how we can sort of help be a resource for student-centered intervention around academic eligibility. Just so that we're all aware, if you come up with a question that we're talking about something or Mike sparks something that you want to follow up with, put your questions in the Q&A. You are going to receive a recording of the webinar today and also the deck. So if you're taking notes or you're one of those people that take screenshots, you'll have all those resources when we're done with today. So where are we at now, right? I think there's so much out there, whether it's on television, social media, articles, things you're reading, and possibly some things you're experiencing right now. Obviously, today is the first signing period for football. So a lot of you may have celebrated that this morning with your families. And obviously that space again is changing and pretty rapidly as we focus. We won't just focus on football and basketball, of course, but those sometimes spaces are foremost and front and center as we learn about the changes. So no longer do we have amateur student athletes in college, right? We understand that student compensation and NIL are starting to change the development and how recruiting is managed and those timelines for our high school athletes. The House settlement and those legal shifts and what's happening with the NCAA and how they're managing the pressure on eligibility and compliance still shifts down all the way to our high school athletes. The academic and transfer complexity. So we went from, college athletes being at a school for 4 years to now sometimes college athletes being at almost sometimes 3 or 4 schools in their college career. And now we're shifting to some of our high school athletes who have sometimes attended more than 2 high schools before they pursue that college athletic experience. That is just where we're at. I don't necessarily have an opinion or want to share my opinion, but we have to focus on what is the concrete pillar there, and that is academic eligibility that will always drive the student to the next space and or prepare them to be in the space that's best for them. So as this is evolving, a lot of us here may remember when travel sports first started, right? It was this new evolution, and here we are 25 years later, And it is part of our norm, right? It's part of our high school athletes, it's part of our dual athletes, it's part of our management of how we manage kids when they play in our high school teams in our building and how they, operate outside of our building. So it's adaptation. And how can we do that? And how can we, as athletic directors of high school students, make sure that we know as much as we can so we can provide and show impact. And again, we'll come back to like what that looks like for academic eligibility, which is the constant in the space. So understanding a few key changes. We have an opportunity at Honest Game to work closely with the NCAA as an educational partner to make sure that the information that is being given and shared with you as athletic directors is accurate, correct, and is not sort of that, neighbor gossip noise. We want to just focus on the facts. So first and foremost, that old language of head count and equivalency in scholarship sports is now obviously offered. Every sport can offer full, partial, or no scholarships, right? It is based on a roster cap for those replacing those scholarship limits. Okay, so if that headcount equivalency is not a definition that you're familiar with, headcount for men was football and basketball, and for females, it was volleyball, basketball, tennis, and gymnastics. Athletes in those sports in that Division One space and mostly Division Two space were offered full scholarships only. Now that is obviously language is outdated. It is now based on roster spots. We'll share a slide with you of those roster spots for the specific sports. Understanding this allows coaches more flexibility in their scholarship distribution, but still remains at their discretion. The payback distribution. So schools that opted in obviously have to pay back those student athletes who competed, and those payments are spread over 10 years. And mostly men's basketball and football players are receiving that largest share. And then the direct revenue sharing. So schools can share revenue directly with athletes, not to exceed 20.5 million per school, right? And that amount increases yearly with salary caps. And that is why we talk about the change, right? As you look at the screen, you see dollar amounts. Our student athletes out of high school, those student athletes out of other, junior college transfer portal spaces, they are being treated as employees. So that does change the vision for recruiting and what we're looking at when we're looking at a whole student athlete. So again, you see on the screen, just sort of to be sure and clear what we know name, image, and likeness involves. And that involves brand deals, media rights, merchandise, and school revenue, right? So those direct payments to student athletes. We think this through. Parents see this, kids see this. Obviously, our eyes light up. We see dollar amounts. But we need to remember that academic eligibility and being that full qualifier status and being a student athlete who can earn a college degree is how student athletes can maximize and optimize this opportunity, right, in this new era. So what is it, there's so many opinions about like, is this good? Is this bad? I mean, there's essentially, we're jumping from 500 to 1,200 more scholarships expanding overall sports, right? So football alone can add 20, baseball has this bigger capacity now, but the surge also reshapes the schools, reshapes what that looks like for our high school athletes, and reshapes what those schools are looking for outside of just our athletic ability in order to make sure those students can maximize their opportunity, but also they have to maximize the opportunity for the school and its success. So the screen here, again, remember, you're going to get an opportunity to have this deck. So if you want a screenshot, go ahead. But it is very important that as athletic directors, we share with our head coaches this new update. They need to know that roster spot, right, in their sport. They need to sort of understand not only maybe what the old limit was, but what the new limit is and how we educate our families what that looks like in a recruiting process. So these are alphabetical. For some reason, I think because it was, track was here, it is out of alphabetical order. So sometimes people are like, I'm missing track. And gym is short for gymnastics, just so we could keep this graph nice and tight. And then obviously next slide here, you're going to see starting with soccer and ending with wrestling. You also see women's wrestling in here, obviously, as an NCAA sport emerging. One that you don't see in here yet is flag football for females. There is athletic scholarships in the NAIA space, but soon to come in the NCAA space as well in 1 and 2. So then again, informational based understanding what it really looks like when we talk about revenue sharing. You see the majority of that big pie is going to football. The next majority is men's basketball. That next piece for 5% is women's basketball and then other sports, right? So this is where we're seeing most of our student athletes receiving that direct revenue from their schools. So I'm going to pause for a moment because I know, Mike, we're going to do a little to do for the team on the high school portal, and I'll kind of pause here and bring these slides up when you talk through it. But I'm going to skip ahead to this as we sort of begin our little discussion and really look, starting from the top down, all the pieces that are part of this journey for our student athletes. We all know it looks different for every kid. We all know that some kids may have an early graduation opportunity. Some kids may need credit recovery to get to that 2-3. Some kids are transferring to junior college and have another 4-year plan. But all these pieces you see on that right-hand side of your screen are part of what we have to educate ourselves on and understand so that we can help those student athletes and our coaches know the most appropriate and accurate information. And as we talk through this, you're sort of thinking, what is your system? Right? As athletic admin, we have a system for everything, right? We have a system for setting up our gyms, a system for setting up our schedules for the year, a system for officials, and all those pieces. And sometimes we kind of stab at our system for academic eligibility and preparation for college athletics, but we don't, give it a whole body. Like who's responsible? Like it sometimes lives in lots of spaces. So that's kind of our goal today for you to start thinking what you're currently doing. Is it working? Can we do better? Or I don't have anything, I need help. So I sort of am gonna go to Mike because of his experience. And my first question to you, Mike, is in this current landscape in what you're doing, you're right now, let's pretend you're a sitting AD, right, at a large school. You've been at schools that have been very successful in New Jersey. What's the first thing you're doing in seeing all these changes?
Well, Court, first of all, I probably run. No, I'm only kidding. It is, we have so much on our plates as athletic directors. And, when you look at this and the enormity of this, this is why we're doing this webinar. I want to try to make this as succinct as possible so that you have a foundation of what an AD should be doing. Remember, there's a variety of stakeholders with this. This is not a person. This is the athletic director, it's the guidance department, it's the coaches, etc. What I would highly suggest, and these are the things that I do when I go in and do workshops with parents and guidance officers. I'm going to hit a couple really huge points here. Number one is the eligibility center. Okay, crucially important. If any young athlete is going to play Division I or Division II, they have to register with the eligibility center. It is a simple process. I'm going to make it even simpler. Okay, every single one of us did some type of online registration for our athletes. So as these freshmen come in, what I would suggest is taking those lists of freshmen and making sure that all the freshman athletes, and you'll have others, some that didn't play freshman and come in a little bit later, that's fine. But all the freshman athletes are given access and shown how to register with the NCAA Eligibility Center. And I'm going to say specifically one area, the free profile. Okay. And free is very rare that you hear that in today's society, but the profile that you can first establish with the NCAA is free. And it's important for a freshman to get on there. Why is it important? It's not the final piece to their athletic eligibility down the road, but it's the piece that gets this started. And what it gets started is this. It starts to get the parents involved with information with the NCAA. All right. How many times have we said that or heard that parents said, well, I had no idea that I had to do this. I mean, my guidance counselor said this, the coach wasn't sure, etc. By registering with the free profile, you are now quote unquote in the system. You're going to get your college ID number. What's really, really cool about this too is that you're going to be getting, and when I say you, the student athlete and the parent are going to be getting constant updates from the NCAA that involve other things besides what we're thinking in reference to eligibility. They're going to get information on test taking. They're going to get information on nutrition, on proper rest and sleep. As we know, when that phone goes off at 2 a.m, those kids are on that. So this is the process that begins this. What I suggest a lot of times with guidance officers, when I speak to them, when you have freshman orientation, how powerful would it be to have tables set up outside of freshman orientation with laptops on them, and you're having people register for the NCAA Eligibility Center with a free profile while they're at your orientation. I mean, if you want to send a message about how important this is, if they're going to get themselves to the Division 1 or Division 2 level. Now, Division 3, it's based on admission to a college, but I don't know many kids that their goal is to be a Division 3 player. So what we want to do is we want to get them started with the free profile. I always get the question, well, when do we go to the certification profile, which is option 2? Thanks, Court, which is option 2. This is what I suggest. You can do it at any time. It's 110. Well, it's up now. It's $110 now. Nothing stays the same. Remember that. It's $110 to register now. And what I suggest is when a student athlete is getting legitimately recruited at the Division 1 or Division 2 level, that's when you cross this over to the certification page, because that's when the college coach can get access to that student athlete, not with the free profile. So that's sometimes a sophomore, junior, obviously going into the senior year, but that would be step 2 in this. And I would be remiss if I didn't say a couple things. Number one is that I often use the term 98% and 2%. Okay, 2% of the kids in this country are getting a full scholarship. 98% of them need your help. They need the guidance department's help. They need the coach's help. They need help to get to that next level. And quite honestly, prior to the House settlement, and which I know, and Court pointed that out, a lot of this was about NIL. Look at the money that was being thrown around there. But what I saw in that settlement, with the elimination of headcount scholarships and the growth of equivalency scholarships, it got the high school kid back in the game. Because I'm being honest with you, everybody that's listening, your high school athletes were endangered species. Okay, if I have a chance to recruit an 18-year-old kid that has no college background, whether it's baskets, football, whatever the case may be, or I can recruit a 20-year-old kid who's already got numbers established, and I can have that kid for a couple of years or 3, I think I'm going to go with the kid in the portal. So that transfer portal and the changes that have happened had really put a damper on high school recruiting. In fact, what you'll find is many kids are being under recruited. You'll watch TV and you'll see a kid that's playing at Division 1. They'll say, yeah, he was at a Division 2 school last year. And they're like, my God, this kid is really, really good. Yeah, the reason why he was there is he was bypassed because of the portal. With the equivalency scholarship, which is so key to this, it has put the high school kid back in the game, because now I can package together not only academics, but athletics. Remember what Courtney said with the head count, which was basically kind of confined to the Power Five conferences, the ACC, Big Ten, Big 12, Pac 12, and the SEC. And oh, by the way, they throw Notre Dame in there too. So even though they're an independent, they're not getting away from it. Okay. But the bottom line was, if you had a receiver that was going to Alabama and they offered him, it had to be a full scholarship. That's why it was called head count. It's a full scholarship on that head. Okay. The equivalency now says that, hey, Mike Gatley really did a nice job with his SATs and his GPA. And if he comes to so-and-so college, he could be a presidential scholar, and he could get a 50% coverage in academics. And now I only have to use 50% in athletics, which opens up another scholarship for someone else. Hence the reason why they increased the amount of scholarships, because now the coaches can package how they want to treat their athletes in a different way than it was before. And to me, this was the only aspect of that House settlement that saved high school athletics, because it's going at the rate it was going, people. You're not going to see many high school kids getting recruited at that top level. Your 2%, you got to worry about it. They don't need you. They don't need me. They don't need Courtney. But the 98% of them need all of us. And I'll pause right there.
So a little bit, I think what's important, and I heard you say this, Mike, and for everyone to know, is they're referring to a little bit of that, and that's why we talk about eligibility, and that's why we know this piece. It's always been part of what we have pushed as ADs, right? Student first, athlete second. And I think what I'd love to understand from you, Mike, is share a little bit about when we're referring to this as academic currency. So now in this new sort of era and what's expected, These athletes are being treated as employees. And let's be fair, not just at this major, group of four, power four, all the pieces of those conferences. It's across the board. Coaches need to recruit student athletes out of high school that are employable, responsible, and are on track to be college graduate.
Yes.
So that is the academic currency. Long gone are the days, even in our basketball and football spaces, where I see Mike and then I see his teammate. They've got great ability. They're both elite five-star kids. One's got a 3.0, one's barely going to make the 2.3. Coaches are moving on from those kids quickly. So, when we talk about academic eligibility, tell me how you see, like, what is the real cost when this eligibility or the focus on academics and preparation to not only be a full qualifier, but be a very high achieving student? What is that exposing you to as an ED if you're not supporting, your athletes in that way with a system to track and a system in your school to make sure all those X's are crossed and T's are dotted, all the pieces. What do you see? How does
Yeah.
that work?
No question, and it is more important now than it probably ever was, right? And always remember too, this has always been a job, okay? Regardless of the house settlement, regardless of NIL, your scholarships are 1 year renewable, and I can tell you something. There's a lot of kids that have gotten their scholarships not renewed. Okay, because why? Because maybe I don't go to the weight room on time. I don't go to study hall. I have a poor attitude, whatever the case may be. All of a sudden, that scholarship gets pulled because of kids that are in the portal. From an academic standpoint, what's really, really important, and I know this may sound simplistic, but I think it's important to start with, is that please don't confuse your graduation requirements with what the requirements are for the NCAA. Now, I will tell you, most of the time they do align, okay? But those core courses that have to be done, those 16 classes that have to have at least a 2.3 in, typically if a young person is in a college bound academic type curriculum, they're going to hit every one of those, okay? But don't just believe because someone has a 3.7 and they're graduating from so and so high school that they have every single core course that they need. And I'm going to caution you on a couple other things real quick too, because this is how Honest Game comes in with the tracking. Couple things that have happened over the last couple of years to me before I retired. Number one is a young person coming into my office and saying, I'm not doing well in this class. My mother wants me to drop it. I'm going to go to my guidance counselor. She's already called her, and we're going to switch myself out. So they want to get out of chemistry. And the only class that's available during that particular period without upheaving the whole schedule is woodshop. I'm not knocking woodshop. Sure, your GPA is going to go up, but it's not core for core. Please be very, very careful with that. Your guidance offices are on top of this. Trust me, they have a portal in the NCAA. It's extremely important that any of your athletes are tracked to make sure that if they are on course. But not only that, if they make changes, that those changes are applicable. The other thing is that it's crucially important from a guidance perspective that your curriculum is updated regularly. I'm just going to say regularly because I can tell you, and Cord will say this too. I've looked in the portal at a couple of schools that I've went and done my workshops, and one of the schools that I'll leave nameless, the last time they updated their curriculum was 2016. That's a little scary because we know that our curriculum gets updated. And unfortunately, if we're not updating that curriculum and putting our kids in the best position, when you upload those transcripts their junior year and the NCAA sees them, that's when they start coming back with questions. And now the eligibility could be in question. So it is so crucially important that, and I know our mothers and our grandmothers always said this, please be the best student athlete that you can. It's going to pay dividends for you in the end. It is crucially important now. You be the best student athlete yet. I say this, and I'm probably the only person that would say this. The amount of athletic money that one of your kids will get, remember the 98% I'm talking about, the amount of athletic money that your 98% will be based on academics. It will not be based on their athletic ability. It's going to be on the combo. Can I take a little bit of that academic money? Because I'm a little scared to give Mike Gatley a full ride right now because I got a kid in the portal that I know will produce for me. But I'll give Mike Gatley a half a scholarship. And I'll tell you what, thankfully, he was a heck of a student. And we know that from being tracked in high school that this kid is ready to play at the collegiate level. So, Court, hopefully that answers,
That
that
that is a
question.
great answer. And I've pulled up two slides for everyone on today just as sort of a little bit of a homework, a little bit of to do. We talked about wanting to learn something today. So I never want to assume that someone might not be on that's new to this. I want to assume that this may not be something you're familiar with. So first and foremost, what is the NCAA high school portal? For all of us here, including Mike and I, old folks, this is formerly known as the clearinghouse, right? This is the eligibility EC Center. This is where your school is classes are approved for NCAA credit in those core subject areas, denied for credit, or you may have submitted a course and sometimes you have someone in your school that's doing that and they're like, I submitted it. But it may be in that category which they refer to as RC8, which it might refer, need more further documentation. Your homework for today is this is our screenshot that every school has, right? This is public information, right? You're going to just type in NCAA. You'll see this come up. You're going to see your SEEB code, obviously your high school name. You're going to see your two contacts. And then you're also going to see that last time anything has been updated, right?
Look at
Or
that.
updated. So homework from here is like a to-do is do the two contacts still exist in your institution? Are they the best people? Please understand the NCAA, you could have athletic director and you could have your athletic assistant who is in your office who helps you. It does not need to be superintendent principal. It needs to be someone who is familiar with this and who is able to complete tasks in the eligibility center and manage this on a quarterly, yearly, timely basis. We will offer an opportunity here at the end. You can definitely schedule time with us as a district or a school to do what we call an NCAA academic health audit to see where you're at with what you've done and what you may need to do, even with grade scales, with any type of online courses that we're offering in schools, right, for recovery. Honest Game is always happy to do that for you and just meet with you to see what we can assist with or what we can help answer the questions around that. So we'll come back to that at the end. Next piece, Mike, I want you to share. Obviously, you've got coaching experience, college coaching experience. I walk into your school, I'm very interested in a couple kids. Most of the time, they're calling or asking our high school coaches still, I need an updated transcript. What would your normal process look like? And what are ways to showcase your athletes to sort of continue that recruiting process, have them want to come to your school? How would you prepare for that?
One of the simple things, and we've talked about this, and I can tell you, and I would ask the people on this call to ask themselves this question: how many of your athletes, far beyond freshmen, how many of your athletes have registered with the Eligibility Center? You would be shocked on how many have not. And, that's got to be number one. If a college coach is coming in, they're asking that question, are your kids that I'm interested in, are they registered with the NCAA Eligibility Center? That's number one. From an academic standpoint, listen, they always ask for the transcript. That's fine. Okay, they'll look through that. The core standards, they should also have access to those. Always made sure that whatever our core standards were at the high school, that they had access to them. Again, they're visually available. They're available on the website, the NCAA website. But again, we're talking about, what is the process if somebody comes to your office? And I'm going to tell you, the last part of that process, and I can say this emphatically, that after we got through all that, because they know enough about them athletically, the number one question that they ask, okay, particularly if the coach isn't available, if they're calling me or they're coming to see me first, what can you tell me about Mike Gatley? Yeah, that's what they want to know. Okay, because all the other stuff is empirical data. I have it. It's right there. All right. Do they have an IEP? Do they need some help? Do you have facilities at your place that can help that young person? All that is going to be vetted out in this process. But what type of kid is this? What type of person is this? So that ties in the academic the social, the leadership, every part of that. And that's what from my perspective as an athletic director, that's how I treat a coach from the collegiate level when they would come into my office, because it would be the same thing that I asked when I was coaching.
And I asked that in terms of the eligibility piece as well, is that I think Mike, you shared exactly what we had sort of in our school in that Chicago space. But that piece of they're there, so they know the kid can play. They wouldn't be in your space if they didn't think that. And then you're able to offer that character reference. And then we're able to quickly, right, with whatever sort of system we're using, we're then able to offer, here's where this kid sits academically. Here is the transcript, here's school GPA, and then being able to share core GPA readily and quickly available, and knowing that that coach leaves feeling like, okay, that athletic office supports the NCAA registration, they're taking care of it. They support where this kid sits with their core, and they support a clean, updated eligibility center portal. I know I'm not going to have hiccups, right? That's what their compliance office wants to tell that coach. So it's such a great to hear you say those three pieces. Can you play? Are you eligible? And who are you? So knowing as ADs, how do we talk to our head coaches about that? And how do we present our athletes at our school in the best way possible? And I'm sure a lot of you have that opportunity in your school to do that. And again, we're sort of just here to ask those questions of what are you seeing and what are you not feeling like you have the ability to do? And how can we help sort of answer those questions or solve that for you? So I'm going to take a minute, Mike. Add any other last pieces you want to share about this new landscape. And we are then going to share just a brief moment so you guys can, if you've never seen our product through Honest Game, we'll give you a couple quick slides just to show you how it works and what it does. And then we're going to offer some opportunity. NIAAA, obviously, national conference is coming up. Again, kudos to Mike as a retired AD who really helps without all those former ADs and all of their work on the conference and making sure our workshops and our LTCs are up to par. That is how we have grown, I think, as a group of athletic directors and as a profession in this country. So we'll share a little bit about some things happening at IEEE, and then we have some time for questions and answers. Anything else to sort of lead in, Mike, or that you want to add?
The only thing I would add, and I just want to just go back for a second, I think it's important for everybody on this call is that, not every young person that is eligible to play at Division 1 or Division 2, really can handle that. And then I'm going to qualify what I'm saying. I'm going to give you a real life example. I received a phone call a number of years ago from a coach, a football coach who wanted to talk to my head coach. And I said, well, he's in class right now, coach, but I could take a message. He said, oh, okay. Well, I have you on the phone. What can you tell me about so and so? And I said, he played football at Mainland. He said, no, I know that. He goes, well, what can you tell me about so and so? I said, coach, he played football at Mainland. See, I'll never throw a kid under the bus, but I got to tell you this. Like, my reputation and your reputation is on this. Okay. There could be a kid down the road that really deserves this opportunity. And this young person at this time, if you're asking me, I'm going to tell you. So that's the other part of this that I think is real important, is that it's not only the reputation of the kid and trying to help that person, it's your reputation that's on this when you're helping these kids get to the next level. It's really important. And I think that's why I wanted to share that.
Thank you, Mike. Okay, I am going to again take a moment and share with you a little bit about what we do here at Honest Game, how we have shared this resource and what we want to do. And please know, we know the rules are changing and we know the consequences are real for kids, but we want to be able to provide a solution, right? Not another thing to log into, but a solution that works for our school administrators, parents, and students. So what you're seeing on the screen, I always say this is if you've ever done an NCAA worksheet by hand, and I've done more than 1,000 of them. So I obviously use this product as an AD. Mike has seen a lot of our work in schools and knows how this works as well. But we are directly integrated with your school information system, whatever that may be. I come from a Skyward school, so Skyward, Power School, Infinite Campus, etc. We are then taking that transcript information, so final transcripts, semester grades or trimester grades, whatever your school falls in, and we are creating a college athletic report on eligibility for your students. Okay. It is going to include all 5 college pathways. As you see the tabs, Division One, Division Two, Division Three, NAI, and junior college, right? We use a very simple red light, green light, yellow light system for our student athletes and for you. We obviously know Division Three and junior college are graduation requirements only and admissibility to those institutions. So we're always going to have an opportunity to those be positive for our student athletes. And then we are going to have that intervention piece. So everything on your school side is matched exactly to your eligibility center portal and your SEEB code as we talked about. And it is going to give you a detailed report, all in compliance language to share where those student athletes sit in real time starting as freshmen. We want one system to include all of the parties you see here on the screen. Your athletic department, your coordination with your counseling and curriculum department, your students and families, and very important, our superintendents and our school boards, right? We want to be able to share data that helps us close gaps and that also helps us share what our student athletes are doing and give you really detailed reports that may help in that role for, increasing stipends, increasing equipment, increasing facilities. Next dashboard spot you're seeing is that inside your login, you are able to organize your athletes by teams. You're able to organize them that whatever language you may use in your institution. In my institution, we used our prospect class. So our head coaches are talented. They know what talent looks like. We need to start planning early, right? I need a prospect list of class of 2029 of kids we know are going to be interested. It's available for them for their talent, and we need to communicate that early with them. So this is an organizational piece of the dashboard that's very helpful. It helps us communicate with our head coaches, helps us communicate with our counseling department as well. Obviously, high level view, you're able to see students quickly. You're able to see their school GPA, NCAA GPA, grad year, right? And then you're also seeing those teams that those students are mentioned into. Then obviously when I click on that student, I'm seeing that detailed individual report, which is going to include all courses taken in your institution, even not approved ones. It is going to share 10-7 locks, right? All the way through. So that rule is not missed. It's going to show transfer courses. We talked about that complexity. I was at a school that was very close to the city of Chicago, so we had probably over 250 transfers a year. Not all athletic, but finding those transcripts from those other schools created another level of complexity for, NCAA eligibility. Locked course requirements. Sometimes that's a piece that our counselors aren't fully equipped to understand or looking for. So knowing that 10-7 is part of that for Division One, right? And then giving some future projections. Right. We can sometimes tell our athletes all we want out of our voice and our mouth, but when we share a screen and lets them see something that can get them higher, gives it a little bit different context, right? We know what this generation needs. They're used to seeing things on a screen. Mentioned this a little bit a minute ago. This is sort of our very detailed reporting that allows you as an athletic director to share end of year reports. A lot of times we have to do those co-curricular reports, right, about GPAs and share that with a board. This is something you get to pawn off on us, and we create a really nice, very readable, pretty report for you to share with your board. Again, highlighting your commitment to what that looks like for athletic opportunities after high school. Last but not least, inside Honest Game and available to every single one of your student athletes is we are not a recruiting company. We do not want to be part of that. But what we do want to provide, right, standing behind our name, is framework for our students and families and for all of them to have access to an organizational toolkit that can sort of lead them into this. Mike mentioned that 98% are 2%, right? Every AD on this call has had that athlete at their school. Some of us have been blessed with having many of them. And then we have our second tier and third tier kids. And we have to make sure that we are paying attention to those kids who are still getting recruited. They're just not, every school in the country is just not coming to us. So this toolkit provides them with an opportunity to have a college recruiting roadmap, access again, obviously student athlete has access to the report, so does their parent, right? They see their academic eligibility report again. We have an opportunity to fill out a Know My Fit survey, right? That's sometimes something parents, counselors, people struggle with. How do we get that conversation going? They're able to share that list, create some school of favorites, right? That might be best for that student athlete. Every student athlete in your building can create a student athlete profile, which will include a link to all of their athletic highlights of their choosing, right? They can all be kept in that folder. They're able to share all of their information, right? Links to athletic highlights, links to their eligibility report, links to their coach references, right? And this little magic link here at the top creates a beautiful PDF that can be emailed out to college coaches. Some students have this maybe through their travel program, and they're probably paying quite a bit of money for it. This is available to all your students through our platform. A really great spot to organize athletic highlights, right? Sometimes our kids come in and they've got highlights everywhere, in Huddle, in YouTube, from a family, from a showcase tournament, right? We want to be able to keep those all in one spot so we can help them stay organized. Last but not least, find a school function, right? You were able to look at any college, any division, any sport, whatever filters are matching that student athlete's sport and recruiting interest. You're able to see all of those schools. Most importantly, you're able to see that information about that school. And then you're able to dig into the roster for that particular sport in our current year or years past from that university, right? Mike talked a little bit about recruiting and it's cyclical and people come to places, and all of us know on here that sometimes families are just looking in the wrong spaces, right? Being in the Midwest, sometimes kids are like, I'm playing baseball at LSU. Not sure the last time LSU came into our region to look for a baseball kid. Few and far between. But when we're able to show parents and families rosters, right, where kids are located from, their size, position, we can be a little bit more strategic with our outreach, and it allows students to also be involved in that research. So that's just part of the tools that are available in that Recruit Assist. That was a small snapshot of obviously what we have to offer with our software. We are also able to help any part of the NCAA portal audit clean it. As I mentioned, you'll have an opportunity to schedule an eligibility health audit with us if you'd like. And then last, we always want to talk about opportunities in terms of what that looks like. So first, we will be offering a roundtable discussion on Sunday, December 14th. We'll have two sessions, session 1 and session 2 at those different times. You can hear from some athletic directors around our country and how they're managing these new sort of changes, what this looks like for them in their building, and just some really respected names. I think that'll be a great discussion for all of us to have. So we will send that out to you. You're welcome to come to either of those sessions. Mike, also, we have our LTC course, 635, Understanding Academic Eligibility. I had the privilege of co-authoring that, and I do teach it at the National. Registration for online is closed, but you can do in-person registration when you're on site if you'll be joining at NADC in Tampa. And then we will also be at booth 1116, excuse me, and we would love to see all of you there. So I'll let Mike kind of close us up, and then we're also going to look in our questions, Mike, to see what kind of things people were thinking about during our talk, if we have any questions.
Thanks, Cora. Yeah, just to reiterate, that course 635, extremely valuable. Again, this is all about gathering information and gathering the latest information. What's interesting about this class is you can take a lot of different classes at your state organization conventions. This class is only offered at National. It's only offered by the authors, which Courtney is one of them, because of the amount of changes that are ongoing with the NCAA. And we don't want to send any type of information that might not be completely accurate. So if you're looking at this course, the only time that you can take it is at National. So I would highly, highly recommend that if you're going to Tampa next week, that you look into that.
And we do in the co-authoring of that class and the writing of the class, Gary DeCastro is the senior managing director of the Eligibility Center at the NCAA. He sits in on our class, and also all the information is vetted quarterly for the sort of the deck and all the workshops and workbooks that you get when you register for that class. So,
Oh,
all
question.
right. One question: how often should our NCAA portal contact? Let's see. Sorry, it's short. How often should our NCAA portal contact update our school portal? I'll pass that one to you, Mike. And I mean, I have my thoughts, but go ahead.
Yeah. So I mean, I would say anytime there's a change, absolutely. All right. I've gotten caught in a couple situations as an athletic director where we had kind of changed the course quickly. It's a 4 credit course. We had a 3 credit class with a 1 credit lab, but it was connected. Unfortunately, that was sent to the NCAA and they flagged it. And they said, well, no, that's not a 4 credit core course. And we had to kind of design the title and how we marketed that out to all our kids. So the bottom line is that it should be something that is done, and I would say at least every couple of years, but certainly anytime there's a curriculum change in the core area, that should be updated to the NCAA. And that's your guidance director that does that. They're usually the primary person that's listed on the portal. And believe it or not, ADs, you are the secondary expert. So that's why it's good you're on this call too.
Yeah. And I would add to Mike too, like I think that I mean one of the sort of benefits if you're using us is every time we get transcripts data, which is 3 times a year from your school, we complete an audit and portal maintenance for you. But I would also echo Mike, it's something that has to be checked on, if not at the completion of every semester, at least twice a year. Someone has asked, how do we pay for Honest Game? There is a lot of different ways to pay for our resource. We have some schools who pay for us through title money, depending if that's a space that your school falls in. We have some schools split costs between athletics and counseling. Depending on your curriculum, this can be used also, again, like Title I, Title IV. We have some schools that pay for us through their booster account. It just depends on sort of what that looks like. And obviously, we know budgeting season is coming up. So that is kind of why we want to present you with information to think through what this might look like. We have experienced some schools have been spending a lot of money and someone to come out and talk with them, right? And those folks are always great. There may be a former compliance officer, someone with Mike's experience, et cetera. But sometimes our cost is somewhat similar to what you may be paying someone to have those conversations or presentations. So if you would like to contact us, I know Barb is putting our information out here. You're welcome to reach out to me to set up that demo and have that NCAA health audit done for your district. And then obviously, again, if you're going to be at National, encourage you to come by the booth. And even if you just want to say hello to us, we'd love to see you. And we'll be able to walk you through anything there as well. So, and we do take
I mean,
appointments. If you guys have a specific time when you're National that that exhibit hall gets busy. If there's a specific time you have available, even if it's outside the exhibit hall hours, reach out to us. We'll set an appointment with you. We'll meet you wherever is best. And we're happy to meet you and, go through a demo and have a conversation then too. Thank you.
and Court, I want to dovetail off of that, and there's a quick question after too. But what I would do, or what I would have done if I had not retired as an AD, is that we're always looking for something new for our programs. One of the things at Mainland was Gipper. Okay, so we were promoting our programs, et cetera. And what I did was I took a little bit of my budget money out of every single sport. Okay, because everybody was going to use it. Same thing here, because this is global. This is affecting every single student athlete that's in your school. So if you're looking at it from a budgetary standpoint, sometimes looking at that big chunk isn't as optically pleasing. But if you can break it down per sport, it makes it a lot more palatable. The other question that's in there, I think is very important, is Honest Game just for junior and senior students actively being recruited? Absolutely not. How many times have we had parents that say that, well, I know you've been tracking Mike Gatley because he was a, good athlete coming in ever since he walked into the high school. And, all of a sudden now my kid is like a Horatio Alger person. We all had him. The kid that grows 6 inches over the summertime, you don't even recognize him. Every single student athlete should be involved with Honest Games. So they're being tracked all the way through. And it also gives real information to the parents. So when they're thinking that they've got a 5'6" midfielder that's going to play at Notre Dame, all this information that Courtney has talked about is setting the stage for what is the proper level. I've always said this. It's not what your the highest level. What is your best level? And I think that's the other aspect of this. So the sooner that you get your kids involved in Honest Game, I think the lot easier the time in your office is going to be too, with parents coming and asking why their kid's not being recruited by such and such college.
Awesome. Any other last questions? I'm just checking. Okay. Well, again, thank you. Thank you so much, Mike, for taking time out, sharing with us. You're always a pleasure. Your expertise is knowledgeable to all of us. And I hope everybody learned or took away one thing today that maybe, you're thinking about, or always good when we go to the conference as ADs to sort of have some ideas of what we're thinking we want to change next year or what we want to improve or evaluate our systems and what we can do better. So we hope we've given you a little bit of nuggets for that. And then hopefully we'll see you at one of the experiences at NADC. And we'd love an opportunity to chat with you and meet with you. So thank you all.